Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you today. First of all, grateful that you've assembled us here today, that this council might meet, one, in person and in these chambers, oh Lord. And we just like to ask you to guide us, that we might make prudent decisions on the behalf of the city. We want to acknowledge those who have suffered loss. We send prayers in their direction. We pray for and against the violence, rather, in our streets, that we might come up with solutions that might work to include changing the hearts and minds of the people who are committing violence. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I just want to let the public know that at 8 o'clock, we will be having a public hearing about a transfer of a liquor license. So we will be stopping our regular part of the meeting to move into that. So, Lori?
We have a motion to accept the minutes of the Wednesday, February 9th, 2022 meeting and bills for payment on February 18th and February 25th, 2022. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keyes, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen.
Before we get into repository sales, we are going to present a proclamation to George Deutsch to recognize his contributions to our community through his role as Executive Director of the Erie County Historical Society Hagen History Center. George retired at the end of 2021 after serving 5 years as Executive Director. Under his leadership, the History Center has become a key player in the revitalization of the heart of Erie. When he was hired as the museum's director in 2016, only the Watson Curtsey Mansion and the Carriage House were open on the Hagen History Center campus. Since then, the campus has grown to include 4 buildings, more than 20 exhibits, and impressive archives and interactive displays. The staff expanded from 6 to 18 employees. The museum also now has national recognition with iconic architect Frank Lloyd Wright's original San Francisco office as a walkthrough exhibit in the museum's new exhibit building. George's love of history is well known. He's a noted Civil War historian and author who co-founded several historical organizations related to the Civil War and the War of 1812. He may be retired from the Erie History Center, but he will continue to contribute to the Erie community, and he's writing a book on the famous 83rd Pennsylvania Infantry, focusing on the untold history of its last year in the Civil War. And he's also representing Northwestern Pennsylvania on the Pennsylvania Commission for the United States Semi-Quincentennial, try to say that fast, also known as America 250 PA, a commemoration of the 250th anniversary of the state and nation's founding in 1776. And events and celebrations will take place through 2026, including in Erie. So, George, thank you for your service to our community, and I'm going to come down and present the proclamation to you. Where do you want me, Frank? Here we go. Thank you so much. Thank you. We'll look forward to your book.
And we look forward to continue to work together.
Okay. And I think that the 2026 thing is really cool.
Yeah.
Having been involved in your bicentennial with you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak on repository sales? Is there anyone here to speak on repository sales? Is there anyone here to speak on repository sales? We could go into public comments. No one ever tells me to speak up.
Public comment time. It's public comment time.
Good evening, Council. My name is Kathy Schaff. I live at 2437 East 43rd Street, Erie, Pennsylvania, 16510. I want to thank you for your commitment to Erie and all your hard work that you do every day. And I also want to say thank you to the mayor for declaring a snow emergency when we had one, because I think that does help the people by making sure parking is a little bit better in snow emergency situations. I am here today to try to convince you as a collective body to write to our county executive, Brent Davis, and Erie County Council. I saw online, and I haven't watched the news, but I was reading that he had a change where he wants to present the ARP money again, and he may change what the administration had done in the November-December timeframe with the council. And they said they wanted to make it public. Well, their meetings are public, just as yours are. Their time is a little bit challenging. They meet at 6 o'clock, I believe, and that's like a transition time for people when they're going to and from work, they need a breather, what have you. So maybe they don't get people to speak at their meetings. But it is a well-known fact that their meetings are public, like yours are. And they had the interest of the city when Kathy Dahlkemper presented the ARP funding, and I believe they set aside money for the homeless and the Erie Community College. It is my concern that Brent Davis may take back some of the money that was directed for the community college and for the homeless. Especially during this time, we need to do better for the homeless in Erie. And that just breaks my heart. And I do plan to go to the next county council meeting and speak my words to them. But each county council person represents a body, just as you are representing the city of Erie. And so we trust in those people to make the right decisions. So what difference does it make whether that decision was made when Kathy Dahlkemper was in office or now with Brent Davis? He should not be clawbacking money at all. If there was money directed for the homeless, make sure that it gets to the homeless. That just is unethical to me. Those people need it. While I was on city council, I did receive emails, and I do at times still talk to people, and they have ideas. There's so many different ideas that different states do. Granted, we do have the winter weather where, like Arizona, for instance, can do something for the homeless because of their nice weather compared to our inclement weather. But we have to do better. Sunday mornings are sad for me. I go to Mass, I go to breakfast at the diner, and then my husband and I drive down State Street on Sundays to do our usual Dobbins Landing thing every Sunday, like clockwork. So I still see people walking the streets looking for cigarettes or maybe just a little warm shelter place or what have you on Sundays, no matter what the weather. They were there last Sunday in the cold. They're going to be there all the time. They're all the time. I've been doing this for over a year. So they're out there in the street no matter what the weather is. They need help and assistance. We need to do better. So I hope that you will write a letter to them, because you are a powerful group, and we need to continue to help them. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in person who wants to make a public comment? Frank, do we have people online? Okay.
Sorry, Liz, this is Freda Tepfer. Oh. This is Freda Tepfer, and I live at 1738 West 23rd Street in Erie. Oh, I have an echo. So I'm just going to give you a few addresses that I culled from the agenda. 817 Washington Place, 1128 State Street, 1602 East 18th Street. So those are people who are applying for something or getting contracts or vendors. I'm kind of curious. Do they clear their snow? Are their sidewalks clear? Are we making sure that whoever we grant flagship, whatever we call them, or any other loans or contracts or purchases, are we making sure that these people are providing year-round walkable sidewalks? I think it's within the city's power to do that, and they should require it. Tomorrow would be a great day to check and see where the sidewalks are still not clear. And the city still has these huge berms that are blocking intersections, blocking the ped buttons. And some of them are making it very unsafe for vehicles as well as pedestrians. So I would request the city require all permitted applicants, loans, flagship grants, ARP funds, demonstrate they do this year round. And I request that the city utilize the ESRI system that not just to track and enforce code enforcement related to residences, but also to businesses and how they maintain year-round access to their sidewalks. Right now, every time I turn sidewalks in to traffic engineering, there's no real tracking, and I think there ought to be tracking and there ought to be code enforcement of that. I also wonder if the city is ensuring that all recipients of DCED-related RACP and other funds, tax incentives are paying the Commonwealth minimum wage of $15 an hour plus family medical leave as required by the governor's executive order of October 2021. I was trying to look up tonight the code, the International Property Maintenance Code, and there was a link on the city's website about it, but I couldn't get into it because it required a subscription. But I could get into it from other cities all over the country. So if the city is going to link to a code, it should be accessible to anybody without subscription. I am concerned that the city is talking about increasing the size of the police force rather than utilizing the funding to actually provide social service support. There is just an emotional tension and the nature of the stress of the police that is a resident interaction that doesn't exist with a social service employee. And I just think that we should be putting more emphasis on increasing that component of how we work with crisis intervention rather than having more people out there who have guns and are enforcing. Also, I want the city to ensure that all new traffic signals and signals along bike routes and improved roads have accessible pedestrian signals. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
She's still muted.
Casey Walker, you're muted if you want to speak to us. Casey.
Hi. I didn't particularly want to speak. This is my first time joining, but I was curious about the whole repository sales. I've never heard of this before, and I was just wondering where I could find more information.
Casey, could we have your address again, please?
Sure. My address is 239 West 16th Street.
And I think your question was about repository sales?
Yes, you mentioned it earlier, and I wasn't sure what that was, so I Googled it, and I gained access to a bit of information, but I wanted to get down to the actual source. I'm not sure where to go to find out more about it. I want to be more involved.
You can call the city clerk's office at 814-870-1291, but these are generated from the Erie County Tax Claim Bureau in the Erie County Courthouse.
Thank you.
Oh, there it is.
That's all the comments? Okay, I think it's not quite 8 o'clock, but I don't know if we should do, we should probably get ready for the public hearing, don't you think?
I'm a little
Or do we have a minute to do one? What do you think, Lori?
Is there anybody online, Frank, to talk?
No?
Does someone have to be here, Ed?
Typically, there would be somebody, but they're not required to be here. Oh, I'm sorry. I turned that off. Typically, the applicant would come and present. It's not a requirement, a legal requirement, but if you have unanswered questions, there may be some issues. If you don't have unanswered questions, it's not a problem.
I think we still have a couple minutes, though, before 8 o'clock, correct? At least according to my phone,
I have 4 minutes.
we have 4 minutes. So
We advertised, and I believe that Kelsey contacted Mr. Attorney Mailer, just to remind him.
It's Attorney Mailer.
I believe so. Yes. I mean, he did submit a letter.
You could certainly read that in, or that could be made as an exhibit into the record and be part of the hearing. That would be fine. But I don't know if there's any questions that you had. I'm trying to see it. I may be able to contact Attorney Miller.
This is the one for the cashier's house? I can read the letter. This law firm represents Cashier's House Beverage. Oh, that's right.
2 more minutes.
No, this is a different one.
That was 1201 Street.
I think maybe Mr. Persinger mentioned it. It's about the cashier's house.
It's going to be an Italian restaurant in there. And this was transferred from the place that had been featured in that reality show where you fix up a restaurant from a few years ago. For those watching at home, we're waiting to see if we're going to have anybody speak about the liquor license transfer at the public hearing. So just be patient a little bit longer. If not, we will be reading into the record a letter from the attorney representing the applicant, if that's the right word to use.
This is unusual.
There's nobody in the negative here, there's no reason to be waiting.
think he's connected with somebody. Do you want me to go on with the other stuff?
Yeah, if you called yourself, we can make that work. All right.
Okay.
I don't know who suggested moving the podium for the citizens to be heard. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Because he was them looking just directly at me. I felt like all the hands were just directly at me. I was the one there making eye contact the whole time. I couldn't read the magazine.
They were.
Move over there. How you feeling?
I was saying, you put right over me. I remember you saying on the way down to the truck. You made that match.
Thank you, Fred. It's going to be fun jazz next week.
I'll just keep moving around the room.
Didn't Mr. Persinger talk about this?
Yes, but he's not the liquor license holder.
No, but I mean,
The attorney is going to call in, so I think in the interest of, transparency, we should have something on the record, so.
I'm not really sure what happened. How you doing on water?
Good, thank you.
So that was a big shock. First time Savior time I'm in like 12 years. Savior time was at the top. And in the state parties.
Oh, she gives me to it. I love my work.
Save yourself a trip around.
A little bit.
Yeah, that coffee.
This has never happened before.
Because we should start. Thank you very much. It's come out. It's like court judge just be like, guilty. No, for whatever makes us guilty.
Hey, Liz, there's no negative here. Why are we waiting? Let me just read that into
He's just going to call in, just so we have it on the record. We do have
Have you
it.
called?
Yeah, I mean, at least we have it. And somehow there was some kind of I
communication.
didn't understand he probably should have been here. I've never been here for a public hearing where nobody showed up. Have
I
you?
know. No, usually the negative people show up.
I know, we lined up around the corner. I guess nobody cares if
This is like the first evening meeting I've ever come to and it's like this empty.
home back in.
Get out here at 8:30.
This is your,
See who's watching.
your race now.
This is my free night.
Like how Wednesday is my free day and then tomorrow morning I boom, boom, boom until Saturday.
I'm like mortified. You got notified, right?
Lori, do we have any other public hearings coming up?
No.
Okay.
You're just here for this hearing, aren't you?
Yeah.
If there were a hearing, yes. All fired up, ready to go.
Do you want me to start with ordinances?
Sure, let's do that. Then we'll go back to the public hearing when the attorney is available.
Sorry.
Say go back, we'll start it when he's on the phone. Oh. Okay, thank you, Ed.
It's all good.
Okay, we're not doing that. I could read the resolution. Do you want to swear people in?
Jack, are you able to hear me?
I can hear you, Ed, yes.
All right, just, we can hear you. It's a little soft, so just if you do say anything, just talk loud. All right, Lori, go ahead.
Do you want to swear him in for testimony?
So I'm swearing in Mr. Mailer, is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
Mr. Mailer, you're going to be sworn in.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, this is the court reporter. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, pursuant to the provisions of Pennsylvania 47 PS 4461B3, City Council will hold a public hearing Wednesday, February 16th at approximately 8 p.m. to hear testimony concerning the transfer of liquor license R18841 for the transfer of liquor license from A&M Sventech LLC, trading as Michelle's Cellar, 13230 Route 6 Roosevelt Highway, Corey, and located in Wayne Township, County of Erie, to the Cashier's House Beverage LLC, 417 State Street, Erie 16507. Do we want to hear testimony regarding this?
Mr. Mailer, this is Ed Betza. The council has the information about the transfer, but council would like to hear from you if you could explain what is going on and what's going to happen at the end of the day with the transfer.
Thank you for that introduction, Mr. Betza. Again, my name is Jack Mailer. I'm with the law firm of McDonald, Illig, Jones & Britton. We represent Cashier's House Beverage, which has a contract to purchase the liquor license. The liquor license, as the letter indicates, is currently owned by an enterprise located in Corey, Pennsylvania. Under applicable law, the transfer from the city of Corey to the city of Erie must be approved by City Council, which is the reason for the hearing this evening. I thank you all for your time. I thank Mr. Betza for his introduction and his time this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Let me just offer this. Cashier's House Beverage is located in the 400 block of State Street. It's planned to be an Italian restaurant, and this liquor license will enable the restaurant to serve liquor at the restaurant. That's a pretty succinct summary of the plan.
Are there any questions from any council members for the attorney?
Madam President, you said 400 block of State Street. Can you give me an exact address so I can vision where it's going to be?
I can attempt to do that. I don't have my file in front of me,
417.
I think it's maybe in the letter that we sent to you.
It is 417.
417 State Street, and that is the building immediately adjacent to and south of the building with the Roman columns.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Madam President. So I know that there's an Italian restaurant going into this space, and so is the person or entity purchasing the liquor license the same entity that is going to operate the business, or are they separate?
Well, if I understand your question correctly, the liquor license restaurant will be operated out of the same enterprise at that location.
Could you repeat that? I'm not sure I got that.
I'm sorry, excuse me?
Could you repeat what you said? I didn't digest what you said.
So the restaurant and liquor license would be both operated out of the same location by the same enterprise.
Thank you.
Are you able to tell us a rough number of full-time and part-time employment this business will be bringing to our community?
I'm having some trouble hearing.
Jack, the question is, are you able to identify the number of full or part-time employees that will be working from the facility?
I don't have that information. I'm sorry.
Any other questions? I think we're good. Then that would, Frank, we don't have anybody now waiting to comment on the cashier's house, do we? Okay.
Mr. Mailer, that will conclude your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate your time this evening.
Have a good night.
You too. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you, Attorney Betza. Do we have anyone else to speak for in the public hearing? Anybody else to speak in favor? Anybody to speak opposed? Anyone else opposed? Anyone else opposed? That will conclude the hearing. We'll vote at the next council meeting.
Now we go back to the regular portion of our meeting.
Program. We have an ordinance introduced by Mr. Brzezinski, Council File Number 16262, Official Ordinance 3/2022, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $52,961 from unappropriated and anticipated revenue and providing for the expenditure thereof. 2021 Justice Assistance Grant. Sponsored by Mr. Brzezinski, seconded by Mr. Troop, that Council File Ordinance Bill Number 16262, and now known as Official File Ordinance 3/2022, be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen. City Council pass Official File Ordinance 3/2022 by yeas 7, nays 0. Council File Number 16263, Official Ordinance 4/2022, an ordinance approving the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances as parts of the various components codes of the codified ordinances of Erie, Pennsylvania. Sponsored by Ms. Allen, seconded by Mr. Keys. The council file ordinance bill number 16263, and now known as official file ordinance 4/2022, be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen. City Council pass official file ordinance 4/2022 finally by yeas 7, nays 0. Council file ordinance 16264, official ordinance number 5/2022. An ordinance appropriating the sum of $300,000 from unappropriated and unanticipated liquid fuels tax fund balance and providing for the expenditure thereof. Sponsored by Mr. Witherspoon, seconded by Ms. Allen, the council file ordinance bill number 16264, and now known as official file ordinance 5/2022, be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen. City Council passed official file ordinance number 5/2022 finally by yeas 7, nays 0. Council file ordinance 16265, official ordinance 6/2022, an ordinance appropriating the sum of $10,000 from unappropriated and anticipated revenue and providing for the expenditure thereof. Contributions are from Mercy Terrace Apartments and the Star Athletic Club. Sponsored by Mr. Troop, seconded by Mr. Witherspoon, the council file bill ordinance number 16265, and now known as official file ordinance 6/2022, be finally passed by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen. City Council passed official file ordinance 6/2022 by yeas 7, nays 0. Ordinance for first reading. Council file number 16266, an ordinance amending Article 1501, 1503.21, and 1503.27 of the UCC ordinance adopting the 2018 UCC and Chapter 11 and Appendix E of the 2021 International Building Code, IBC, for new construction along with the accessibility provisions contained in the 2021 International Existing Building Code, IEBC, for the 2021 International Plumbing Code, IPC, and the 2021 International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, ISPSC. Sponsored by Mr. Witherspoon, seconded by Ms. Flores, the council file ordinance number 16266, having been read, is hereby adopted on first reading by City Council. Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen. City Council read and adopt council file ordinance number 16266 by yeas 7, nays 0 on first reading. This takes us to new business.
Old business, right?
No, that was the, oh, okay, old business.
Yeah, we do have
I
old
forgot, we
business
have the
on here.
table, the motion, the resolution that was tabled last week. Mobilecom, proper city officials are hereby authorized and directed to issue an agreement to Mobilecom 16343 Conneaut Lake Road, P.O. Box 1234, Meadville, for 21 portable radios, batteries, and microphones for the Bureau of Police at a total amount of $90,260.94.
Discussion? Mr. Keith?
Yes, yeah.
Who's going?
The big issue here for me is that it's not the issue itself, it's 3 issues down the road. So this is buying radios for 21 new cops, which is $5 million that the last update of the final rule on ARP money says that we could be putting $5 million of that into deduction, whereas we've only written in $5 million. So that's my concern about it. This is really the only spot that we have to take that money back into the coffers. I believe it leaves us a liability going forward. I read through the final rule. We are hiring these police to address public health. Page 51 of that actually describes what that looks like regarding firearms in other municipalities. Nobody's addressing it with police anywhere else. So I really just want to catch this 2 steps down the way from the final allowance, or the basic allowance that's allowed, and keeping money out of our coffers. That's all I have to say.
Who else wants to comment?
Voting on the resolution?
I think we still have some discussion, Lloyd.
Yeah, and to the furtherance of what Councilman Nelson was saying, that the city does have to take its financial situation and its financial housekeeping serious and put it on before any other particular issue. And so that it's just important that, yes, we do need new equipment, but how much equipment do we need, and whether it needs to be done today. And I don't think that it's a decision that needs to be made today.
Ms. Flores?
My only concern is, as both Councilman Nelson and Keys have shared, is in 5 years, are we going to be able to afford to, keep what we're investing in now? We currently don't afford it without the ARP funds, so I honestly don't know if we are going to be in a great place in 5 years to be able to maintain what we're trying to do.
Mr. Troop?
Thanks, Madam President. I do agree with my other council members, but I also work in a position in a school in which we use radios on a regular basis. And I know there's times if my radio is not charged, for example, and I'm in a corner of a building and something happens and I don't have that radio, and I'm alone and a fight or something like that happens, I have no way of letting other people know that I need help. So the radios are really important. I see both sides of it. If you're going to hire the officers, they need to be well equipped.
Thank you. I want to speak to this. I want to remind people that I did ask questions about the long-term cost of bringing additional police officers on. I have a concern that some council members want to renege on what the previous city council agreed to in hiring additional officers. We're having a lot of scary things going on in our community. Yes, I would like to see us address the gun issue. There's a court in Pennsylvania that just ruled that Philadelphia's law was unconstitutional, which allowed people to be charged if they had to report lost or stolen guns. So I would like to see us have a really unified effort on this, so that we're addressing mental health, we're addressing guns. There was legislation in the Pennsylvania legislature that was supported by the state senator here that would allow, I think it was concealed carry without even having to register. So I would like to see a unified effort on this, but I've also come to believe that the Erie Bureau of Police working with the administration, has come up with a plan to address a lot of immediate needs. Obviously, everything can't be addressed by police versus mental health counselors. But I've been fortunate to participate in the SP Strengthening Police and Community Partnership conversations, probably for about the last year and a half. I do see change happening. I see tomorrow we're going to be swearing in new police officers, and we will have 2 minority hires among that. It's been too long that we've been able to try to change the numbers, but we are going to get there. So I think that let's not camouflage this. Some people might vote against this equipment because it's the first step to trying to claw back the number of police officers that are going to be added. So I'm voting in favor of the equipment. Is there any other comment? I think we're ready, Lori.
Voting on the resolution, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys,
No.
Mr. Nelson,
No.
Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen. Motion passes. Yeas 5, nays 2. Now we go to new business.
Now we're new business. Does anybody want to move the balance of the
Move
agenda?
balance, Mr. President.
Mr. Brzezinski is moving the balance. Do we have a
Second.
second? Second from Mr. Witherspoon. Do we do the separations now?
Right.
Are there separations? Any separations?
Number 3.
Under new business or under a contract?
Under new business.
The June Street Parks acquisition?
Yes.
Any other separations? I think we're ready to vote on the balance. You have one? No? Number 9? Number 9, okay. Number 9,
Under new business, the police hire? Any other separations? Moving the balance of the agenda, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen. We have a resolution sponsored by Mr. Witherspoon, seconded by Mr. Keys. Resolved by the Council of the City of Erie, whereas the City of Erie applicant desires to undertake the project City of Erie East 18th and June Streets Park Acquisition Project Title. And whereas the applicant desires to receive from the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources Department a grant for the purpose of carrying out this project, and whereas the application package includes a document entitled Terms and Conditions of Grant, and whereas the applicant understands that the contents of the document entitled Terms and Conditions of the Grant, including appendices referred to therein, will become the terms and conditions of a grant between the applicant and the department if the applicant is awarded a grant. And therefore, be it resolved, the grant application may be electronically signed on behalf of the applicant by Charles Zisk, who at the time of signing has a title of Director of Department of Public Works, Property and Parks, and the email address of czisk@eriepa.us. If this official signed the grant application electronic authorization prior to the passage of this resolution, the grant of authority applies retroactively to the date of signing. If the applicant awarded a grant The grant application electronic authorization signed by the above official will become the applicant grantee's executed signature page for the grant agreement, and the applicant grantee will be bound by the grant agreement. Any amendment to the grant agreement may be signed on behalf of the grantee by the official who at the time of signing the amendment has the title specified in paragraph 1, and the grantee will be bound by the amendment. This resolution may be adopted by Erie City Council on February 16th. Discussion?
Yeah, so why I hope that we do receive the grant. I also hope that, you know, when there's property on the market, it can also be bought by someone else. And so I don't know if the wait and see game is the best thing if we want this piece of property. And two, the placement of it. You know, no one has said how much it costs. No one said, and so we don't know the size of the grant. And so, and then whether it's just something that, you know, the city can just go out and purchase. And so these are things that, you know, we make and simplify in the meantime, or we could, you know, do all of this paperwork and somebody buys the piece of property. And so I don't think it's the most prudent way to go about this, so.
Have you been there before? Huh? Have you been there before? Do you know the spot? All right.
Yeah, I'm just saying, yeah, it's, yeah, so that's what I'm saying, why, or even whether someone wants to donate it to us. It's, I don't know.
Any other discussion?
Voting on the resolution, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen. Resolution passes yeas 7, nays 0. We have a resolution sponsored by Ms. Allen, seconded by Mr. Keys, that the Council, City of Erie, above listed names as appeared on the current civil service eligibility list for police officers. Be it resolved that Zachary Brown of Erie, PA, number 1 on the list, having been nominated by Chief Daniel Spizzarni, is hereby confirming the appointment as a probationary patrolman at the current salary of $50,205.91, and that he is on probation for 1 year from the date of his appointment on February 17th, 2022. Discussion?
Before we have some discussion, we just need a little bit of quiet from the audience. Thank you. So discussion? You're having a difficult time hearing, Mary? You want to come up closer so you can hear? Just
We'll speak up for the remainder of it, Mary.
Okay, well, let's try, if you sit in the front row, and we'll all try and talk louder, okay?
That's what I'm saying. I try to sit up and hear everything. It's like
You still couldn't hear up close?
it's like getting secret.
Oh, so some of the votes are, when you don't say anything, that's a yes. And so that's why you're not hearing anything during the vote. When they call the person's name and they do not respond, that's a yes.
I'm just saying, I don't hear what y'all say.
Okay.
No, we aren't trying to be secretive, and we do have technical issues sometimes, but we'll all try and speak louder for the remainder of the meeting, okay? And I think wearing masks also sometimes might muffle the sound, but we'll try and be more. Okay.
Our masks.
Yeah.
Our masks muffled. Let's grab a seat. We'll keep going.
I'm just saying, and y'all
Thank you.
to vote or listen to what y'all saying, you need to open up do something. Put some more speakers back here or something, for people to hear what you're saying.
Okay, we'll follow up with our media person after the meeting. No. I'm the person who actually sets up the room. We will follow up and see if we can improve the acoustics, okay? Thank you. All right. Back to discussion for the Mr. Troop? Mr. Troop.
You guys hear me? Madam President, thank you. I'm not going against the hiring of the officers at all. Congratulations to those guys for being hired. I just want to make sure that we're, although it may be difficult to find police officers that are homegrown from Erie, PA, and not ones that are in 5th grade right now. I mean, ones that are, 20 years old, 25 years old, 30 years old, minorities. Somehow we got to start convincing them that, I think that if we're able to get a few of those guys on there or ladies, that will just provide role models for those people. As I said in the caucus room, my uncle, I have 2 uncles that were police officers, and they would take me to the state police barracks and things like that. That did help with my mentality towards police officers because I had family members that were actually police officers. So I think if we start with homegrown and we really make an effort there, that'll help us a lot in our recruitment of minorities. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, I don't know if anybody, Michael, I didn't make it last night. Did you make it to the Answer the Call program?
I did not.
Okay, there was a program last night at the Eagle's Nest to encourage young people to consider a career in public safety. And as we go along, I had mentioned the Strengthening Police and Community Partnership Program, and we'll make sure that council knows, sometimes there's a lot going on, but we'll make sure council members know what is happening with that program, and especially the outreach efforts. So hopefully that will yield some results, and maybe when we get to the mayor, he can talk a little bit about that. But I think, unless anybody else has any other comments, I think we're ready to vote on this one. Lori?
Voting on the resolution, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon, Ms. Allen. Motion passes yea 7, nay 0.
That takes us to committee reports, is that correct? Okay, for committee reports, this time we're going to go in reverse alphabetical order, and then sooner or later I'm going to make sure that everybody gets, if you like being first, we'll make sure that somehow you're first on the list, but we're going to start with Mr. Witherspoon. Do you have a committee report?
Thank you, Madam President. No report.
Mr. Troop.
Madam President, I did want to, committee report, but I did want to acknowledge once again Black History Month. Me being an educator, I wanted to remember Miss Ada Lawrence, who was the first African-American teacher hired in 1946 by Erie's Public Schools. Also, one more fact, in February of 1863, there was a call for African-American men to come out to be soldiers for the Civil War, and the 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment was formed, which was the first black regiment in the Civil War. So just wanted to mention those things. Thank you.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes. So after council last week, because it was back-to-back weeks, I went to meet with Public Works, and I was able to bring a lot of the concerns from our residents about plowing. They were able to inform me about a lot of things. It was actually really exciting. They're doing a heck of a job there drawing revenue. They found a way to triple their revenue on milling of the streets after they, when they milled the streets to put down a new one. They found a way to get $300,000 a year from that. Previously, it was only about $100,000. They're having compost available. Last year, it was a little bit of a pilot, so that was really exciting to find out. I mean, it's everything short of bake sales to make sure that our streets are nice and clean. So that was nice to get some of that information. We kicked around some ideas to address the snow better. Also sent it out on Facebook and just let people contribute. Had a couple good ideas, and the Public Works was able to offer some community-based solutions that have been effective in other places. So I'm always enthusiastic to find solutions that are being offered elsewhere and have been able to prove themselves successful. Yesterday was a sewer authority meeting. I'm on sewer authority and with Public Works, I get the department of that. So it's a nice streamline. Starting to learn the distinctions between the two and why that division is significant, because honestly, that was one of the things that confused me most coming on this, is why are those different? But there's definitely some resources behind it. Spent about 4 hours today getting a tour of the sewer plant and meeting with their head. Some great information, and I'm really excited about the capital improvements that are in the works and planned for the future. So that's my work for the last week, and I'll have my water authority report tomorrow to give you next time.
Thank you. Mr. Keys.
No report at this time.
Okay. Ms. Flores.
I don't have a report to give. I have not been able to actually have a solid meeting with the EMCA board and authority. I did have a meeting this morning with Aaron from the Blighted Property Committee, so that was a great meeting. They gave me a good rundown. I feel really informed on what that committee does, so that was a great meeting. Still waiting to get a hold of the EMCA though. So until then, thank you.
Mr. Brzezinski.
I think it's on there. First off, the Convention Center is meeting tomorrow. We're going to be welcoming a new member to it, Larry Sapienza. It's good to get good young blood involved, so I'm looking forward to that meeting tomorrow. I have to take a minute to give my condolences to the Dawson family. I didn't know about Mr. Dawson, the barber. Two of his sons were almost like my sons at East High. Earl and Andy were fantastic kids, guys, men now, but I'll talk to you more about that, Mo. Other than that, have a good evening and happy Valentine's Day, a day late. I'm done.
Okay, I have a couple of things to add. I am concerned about some of the things that are happening at the county in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, but I will tell you that good things are happening in the city of Erie. We've brought on board a consultant a company that will be looking internally at how the city is being diverse, equitable, and inclusive, and will also be doing some interviews in the community. On February 24th, we're having a study session at the request of the administration. And at that time, we're going to hear from the Community Relations Department of the U.S. Department of Justice, which has been working with the city on that acronym, SPCP. The city did not make that name up. That was something that came from the Justice Department. It's a mouthful, but there are good things happening. We're going to hear what the Justice Department has to say about how we've succeeded and if we still have challenges in that regard. There is a Zoom conference or a webinar on Friday, and this is a virtual panel discussion from noon until 1:30. Erie's diversity is the path to prosperity, tackling the teacher-to-student mismatch. This is sponsored by the Jefferson Educational Society. It's virtual and it's free, and you can go online if you want to register there. I wanted to mention, I know some of you know that I'm a big basketball fan, and I was lucky enough to run into Mel at a basketball tournament that took place at the former Wayne Middle School, which is now ECAT. This was a great tournament. There was amazing basketball talent there. These were high school students, including the students from Keystone Athletic Academy, which is the program run by Shannon Pulliam. And I sat next to, I think we kind of missed the opportunity to let people know that this brought some tourism dollars into Erie. I sat next to a family that came from Rhode Island to see their relative play for Springfield Academy. The young guy I was sitting next to showed me his phone, and he said, "Did you know that John Calipari, the Kentucky coach, was here on Thursday night?" So I'm not a Kentucky fan, but anyhow, that being said, these athletes are really talented. When I was there, I saw a guy wearing sweats from DePaul University, and I went over and I said, "I'm glad to see the Big East is represented here," because I had my Marquette shirt on. He told me his name. I didn't recognize the name. I went back and Googled, and it turned out it was the head coach for DePaul, was in Wayne Middle School on Friday night. So if you have a chance to go see the Keystone Athletic Academy athletes play, I guarantee you're going to see some. There's a lot more on their schedule. So that's all I have to say right now. And then we go to the mayor next, and then the solicitor. You want to make any more?
I have nothing.
You don't want to make any more phone calls, right, Ed?
I did my part for tonight.
Thank you. So, Mayor?
Thank you. Last night I was at that Answer the Call meeting at the Eagle's Nest, and again, that is trying to prepare. We're going to be hiring police officers, obviously, and there's opportunity for people to get on the list. It's not easy because you first have to pass a physical test. If you pass the physical test, you then have to take a written test, and you are hired based on your score on the written test. We are trying to encourage minorities with a military background to get interested in becoming police, because you get 10 points added to your score if you were discharged honorably from any military in the United States. I'm really happy to tell you, you approved 9 new police officers tonight. 2 of them are minorities. So that's over 20% of the new hires.
And Mayor, can you remind people that they'll be sworn in tomorrow at 11 o'clock in council chambers, correct?
I think you just did that, yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention it.
No problem. That's good. That's good. This morning, we also had about 20 children from to celebrate Black History Month. You might notice out there all the drawings. Those are done by 14 children from all over City Hall, from all over the city, not just one school. And we were really, really, really proud of that. Also yesterday, yesterday, the Parista Cafe opened at 30 West 8th Street, which is really neat. It's cat, and there's, if you like coffee, there's some good coffee there. That was a really neat event to be at. On Monday, my team and I met with Kathleen Getz, the 13th president of Mercyhurst University, had a really great meeting with her and talked about some different things we can do together. So we're really encouraged with that. I also, back on February 10th, I attended the graduation of the Jefferson Civic Leadership Academy up at the Jefferson Society at 3207 State. There were about 26 graduates, I believe, a very diverse group. Young people. This is a great program, and I'm happy to be there to help support them. The day before that, on February 9th, Governor Wolf was here. He was at Piper Burley Elementary School. I had the opportunity to be there with him, and he was announcing his proposed changes in elementary school funding. And you're probably all aware, some more than me, that the Erie School District has never been fairly funded by the state, and this is a huge step in the right direction. We're real pleased with that. Deb Smith has been, over the last week, we've interviewed 25 different applicants for our CDBG Home 2022 funds. We don't know exactly how much we're going to get yet, but we see some great proposals. I think, Liz, you were at least some of them as well, and that was a great thing to be part of. Back on February 4th, I met with about 30 residents at Bickford Senior Living. That's on the West Bayfront, 1012 West Bayfront.
and had just a great conversation with them, and that was really good. And Liz, thanks for mentioning about Strategic Consulting Partners. Monica Gould is the CEO of that. Over the next 10 months, as Liz said, they're going to help us eliminate any built-in racism that might be in our policies and procedures. We want to, one of my main goals is that every individual in the area should be treated equally. No one group should get more than any other group. She also presented to our staff yesterday in our weekly staff meeting, so everybody got to kind of hear what's going on with that. I want to thank you today. I know two people voted against it, and people have a right to vote. You all have a right to vote however you want. I'm never going to criticize anyone, but I do think we need those 21 radios. Back when we eliminated about 40 policemen, it was basically we eliminated the people that helped minorities that were being discriminated against, and also the homeless. We have about 1,100 homeless people a year on the streets in the area, about 300 or 400 at any given point, but if you add them all up, there's usually about 1,100 a year, and this will help us help those people. And also, even more important than that to me is we have 8 or 9 calls the police get a day on violence going on in homes. And in the past, 30 years ago, we had a group that followed up with that. Now we had to eliminate that group because of the city's budget. So now part of this, these radios will be used by 2 officers that'll be on duty around the clock. There's 3 8-hour shifts around the clock. There'll be 2 officers on duty, and they will follow up with these situations where the police had to respond to some sort of domestic and try to eliminate that or stop that from ever happening again, as well as helping the homeless. So that's part of what you approved tonight, and I do appreciate that. But again, I respect everybody's right to vote however they want on this. I think that's everything I've got. Thanks very much.
Thank you. I don't think we have Teresa on, do we? We don't have Teresa. Before I say those magic words, anything for the good of the order, I just wondered, first of all, I want to thank City Council for adjusting to the new time for the Finance Committee meeting. I know it makes for a long night. The gap as we were waiting to get the public hearing going on also made it even longer. Chuck, I wondered, do you think that we need a study session on public works so that we can let the public know some of those things that are happening? I mean, I'm thinking it might be better to have something now rather than waiting till the snow season comes again. Not that the snow is done, but let's think about that, okay? Because I think you're privy to what they told you, and I think it would be really helpful to let the public know. So anyhow, think about that, okay? Anything else for the good of the order? City Council is adjourned.
City Council adjourns at 8:55 p.m. Ms. Allen, Mr. Brzezinski, Ms. Flores, Mr. Keys, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Troop, Mr. Witherspoon.
Recording